What if the document that
Order?
ruined your life was signed by a dead man?
Order!
That was
What is
exactly
the
what was
meaning
about to
of
be
this
uncovered
fabrication?
inside Courtroom 4B.
We
The
just
judge
got the
stood up
confirmation
before the
email.
ink had even dried. The
That
courtroom
calls for a
doors slammed
celebration.
shut like a
Cheers to
verdict no
us.
one had spoken yet. Silence didn't fall. It suffocated. Ethan Cole sat perfectly still, his fingers resting against the polished wood as if nothing had changed. But something had. He just didn't know it yet. Across from him, Olivia Hart held the pen, her name still fresh on the final page of the divorce settlement that was about to erase her from everything she had built. To everyone watching, she looked small, tired, defeated. That was the illusion, because Olivia wasn't trembling from fear. She was holding herself together, piece by piece, waiting for the exact moment the lie would crack open. Judge Margaret Hale's voice cut through the air, low and controlled, but carrying something dangerous beneath it. No one leaves this courtroom. A ripple of confusion spread. Ethan frowned, irritation flashing across his face. This wasn't part of the plan. Nothing was supposed to interrupt his clean exit. In a few hours, he was meant to be on a private jet, flying toward a new life, leaving behind a broken wife and a hollowed company. He had already won, hadn't he? Olivia lowered her eyes, but her mind moved sharply, replaying every step that had led here, every signature, every lie, every quiet humiliation he thought she had swallowed. He mistook her silence for weakness. He mistook her patience for surrender. And that would be his fatal mistake. The judge reached for the document again, her gaze no longer neutral. It burned now, focused, precise. Ethan shifted in his seat. For the first time that morning, something unfamiliar crept into his chest. Not doubt, not yet, but the beginning of fear. Fear didn't come from nowhere. It was built, layer by layer, over years of quiet control and invisible erasure. 12 years earlier, in a cramped cafe in Austin, Olivia Hart had been the one holding the future together. Ethan Cole was brilliant, yes, but scattered, restless, chasing ideas faster than he could sustain them. Olivia saw what others missed. Not just his vision, but its potential. She stepped in where he faltered. She structured the chaos. She turned ambition into strategy. He wrote code. She built a company. Neuralink Systems didn't rise overnight. It clawed its way up through sleepless nights, unpaid invoices, and risks that would have terrified anyone else. Olivia handled investors, negotiated contracts, kept the business alive when it had no right to survive. Back then, Ethan used to say, "We're partners, 50-50, always." But they never wrote that down. Success changed the language between them. When the company exploded into the spotlight, Ethan became the face. Interviews, magazine covers, industry panels. Olivia stood just outside the frame, introduced as his wife, never as the architect behind the empire. Then came the slow removal. Board meetings she once led no longer included her. Financial reports stopped appearing. Questions were met with deflection. "You don't need to stress about this anymore," Ethan would say, his tone soft, reassuring. It sounded like love. It was displacement. Lena Brooks arrived soon after, young, efficient, always within arm's reach of Ethan. She managed schedules, handled private accounts, filtered information. Olivia noticed the silences that followed her entrance, the glances, the closed doors. Something was shifting beneath the surface. By the time the divorce papers came, the narrative was already rewritten. Ethan claimed the company was collapsing. Massive losses, bad investments, a sinking ship. And then the document, a post-nuptial agreement, dated years earlier, signed with Olivia's name. She stared at it, her pulse slowing into something colder than panic, because deep down, beneath the shock, beneath the betrayal, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had never signed it. She had never signed it. That certainty didn't calm Olivia. It sharpened her. Because if the signature wasn't hers, then every line of that document was part of something far more deliberate than a simple lie. It was a construction, a trap. And somewhere inside it, Ethan had made a mistake. The answer came late one night, in a house that no longer felt like hers. Olivia moved through Ethan's private office with quiet precision, every step measured. She wasn't supposed to be there. That alone told her she was exactly where she needed to be. The room smelled faintly of leather and cold air, everything in perfect order. Too perfect. Control lived here. She searched for something small, something human, a crack, and she found it. A slim black USB drive, hidden beneath a false panel inside his desk. Her pulse didn't spike. It slowed. Inside the files, numbers, transfers, coded entries, patterns began to emerge. Money wasn't disappearing. It was moving. Singapore, Malta, Cayman Islands, shell companies, layered accounts, hidden assets buried beneath legal smoke. Ethan hadn't lost anything. He had relocated everything. Olivia leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen as the truth assembled itself piece by piece. If she exposed this now, the case would explode, but not in her favor. Delays, motions, years of litigation she couldn't afford. And Ethan would run. No, this required precision. The next morning, Daniel Reeves listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled, eyes distant. When she finished, he nodded once. "He's not just lying," Daniel said quietly. "He's setting the stage." Olivia met his gaze. "Then we changed the ending." Daniel exhaled slowly. "We let him walk into court and swear under oath that everything is true." A pause. "And then?" Daniel's eyes hardened. "Then we let him hang himself with it." Olivia felt the fear again, but this time it didn't control her. It focused her. "Tell me what to do," she said. "Tell me what to do," she said. Daniel didn't answer right away. He simply looked at her, measuring not her fear, but her resolve. "First," he said finally, "you sign." The word landed like a blade. Back in the courtroom, the memory snapped into the present. The ink was already dry. Olivia sat still, her hands resting lightly on the table, while across from her, Ethan exhaled in quiet victory. His shoulders loosened, his smirk returned, subtle, satisfied, absolute. He believed it was over. He believed she had just handed him everything. Judge Margaret Hale lifted the document again, her eyes narrowing as they moved across the final page. The room held its breath, though no one knew why. Then she stopped, not at the numbers, not at the terms, at the signatures. Her fingers pressed against the paper as if grounding herself in something she didn't want to believe. "Mr. Cole," she said slowly, her voice stripped of all neutrality, "do you affirm that every statement in this document is true and complete under oath?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Yes, Your Honor." That was the moment. Daniel didn't move. He didn't need to, because the trap had already closed. The judge's gaze lifted, locking onto Ethan with something far more dangerous than anger. Recognition. "Bailiff," she said. The word cut through the silence like a trigger being pulled. "Secure the room." Confusion rippled. Chairs shifted. Breath caught. Judge Hale stood, holding the document up now, her hands steady, but her voice carrying a controlled fury. "This witness signature," she said, tapping the page, "belongs to a licensed notary, Daniel Price." Ethan frowned, irritation flickering. "Yes, that's correct." The judge leaned forward. "No," she said, each word deliberate, final. "It's Nas." Then, "Daniel Price died 3 years before this document was signed." The air shattered. Ethan's face drained of color, and for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. And for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. Silence didn't protect him this time. It exposed him. The courtroom erupted. Voices overlapped, chairs scraped, but Olivia heard none of it. Her eyes stayed on Ethan as the illusion collapsed in real time. The man who had controlled every room, every narrative, every outcome, was unraveling. "Bailiff," Judge Hale ordered, her voice ironclad, "place Mr. Cole in custody." The metallic click of handcuffs echoed like a final verdict. Ethan staggered to his feet, panic flooding his face. "This is a mistake," he started, turning toward his attorney, but she was already stepping back. Distance. Survival. Daniel Reeves remained still beside Olivia, his calm a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding. "It's over," he murmured, but it wasn't. Not yet. 6 months later, the federal courtroom told the rest of the story. Evidence stacked high. Offshore accounts uncovered. Hidden transfers traced. The careful architecture of fraud dismantled piece by piece. Lena Brooks took the stand, her voice trembling as she confirmed what Olivia had already known. Ethan hadn't just planned to win the divorce. He had planned to erase her. The verdict came down hard. 8 years in federal prison, full restitution, complete forfeiture of all concealed assets. Justice didn't roar. It settled, final, unavoidable. 1 year later, sunlight filled the glass-walled office overlooking Seattle's skyline. The old name was gone. In its place, Novacore AI. Olivia stood at the window, her reflection steady, unbroken. She hadn't just survived, she had reclaimed everything. Not with noise, not with revenge, with truth. Behind her, the past was nothing more than a shadow. Ahead of her, something stronger, something earned. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Would you have taken the money or fought for the truth? And if you believe in stories where justice finds its way back, stay with us. What makes this story linger isn't the courtroom twist or the downfall of a powerful man. It's the quiet transformation of a woman who refused to disappear. Olivia Hart didn't win because she was louder, richer, or more ruthless. She won because she paid attention. Because when something felt wrong, she didn't silence that instinct. She followed it. Piece by piece, she uncovered a truth that had been carefully buried beneath manipulation, arrogance, and control. Ethan believed intelligence made him untouchable. He believed power gave him the right to rewrite reality. But in the end, it wasn't his enemies who destroyed him. It was his own overconfidence. His need to win at all costs blinded him to the smallest detail, the one flaw that would bring everything down. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Never ignore what doesn't feel right. In real life, deception rarely appears as something obvious. It hides in small inconsistencies, in things that almost make sense, in moments we choose to overlook because facing them feels uncomfortable. But truth leaves patterns, and those who take the time to look closely will always have an advantage over those who rely on illusion. At the same time, this story is about resilience, about understanding that being underestimated is not a weakness. It can be a strategic advantage. When people assume you don't see, don't know, or don't matter, they reveal more than they should. And that is where real power begins. So here's a simple question for you. If you were in Olivia's position, would you choose to walk away in peace or fight for the truth? Share your answer in the comments so everyone can see different perspectives. And if you enjoy stories like this, stories about justice, strength, and rising after betrayal, don't forget to subscribe to support the channel and keep these powerful stories coming.